You know what's actually disturbing? Some people use their own face as their phone wallpaper. Not their family, not their dog, just themselves. And the psychology behind this is way darker than you think. I need to tell you about something I noticed last week. I was at a coffee shop and this guy next to me unlocked his phone. His wallpaper? A selfie of himself. Just him, staring back at himself. And I thought, what is going on in that person's head? So I went down a research rabbit hole, and what I found honestly shocked me. Now, the obvious answer is narcissism, right? And yeah, there's actually research on this. Studies show that people with narcissistic traits post way more selfies online. But here's the thing. Posting selfies is about getting validation from others. Using your own face as your private wallpaper? That's just for you. Nobody else sees it. So what's really happening here? There are actually two types of narcissism. The loud, confident type who walks into a room and needs everyone to know they're there. And then there's the hidden type. These people are insecure and anxious, but they still think they're special deep down. They just hide it better. And for both types, having their own face as a wallpaper makes sense. It's constant self-reinforcement, a reminder that they're the main character. But not everyone who does this is a narcissist. In fact, most aren't. And this is where it gets really interesting. Some people do this because their sense of identity is falling apart. Think about it. If you're constantly changing who you are to fit in with different groups, if you're always trying to please everyone, you might lose track of who you actually are. And seeing your own face becomes an anchor. It's like saying, this is me, this is what I look like, this is who I am. It's a way to hold on to yourself when everything feels uncertain. Psychologists call this identity consolidation. Most people figure out who they are during their teens and 20s, but some people never finish that process. Their identity stays fragmented, constantly shifting, and those people need visual reminders of themselves just to feel stable. Now here's something that sounds completely opposite, but makes just as much sense. Low self-esteem. Yeah. Some people use their own photo not because they love themselves too much, but because they're desperately trying to love themselves more. There's research on this. People with low self-esteem do things called positive self-affirmation behaviors, little tricks to boost their confidence. And for some people, looking at a photo where they feel good, where they look happy or attractive, serves that purpose. It's like a pep talk every time they unlock their phone, a reminder that they're not as terrible as their inner voice tells them to be. But there's a darker side to this. Control. When you use your own image as your wallpaper, you control how you see yourself. You choose the angle, the lighting, the filter. You decide which version of yourself you want to see every day. And for people who struggle with body image or trauma, that control feels necessary. It's about reclaiming ownership of your appearance. But here's where it gets dangerous. When someone becomes too fixated on their own image, when they're constantly curating how they see themselves, they lose touch with reality. They start seeing themselves not as they are, but as they want to be. And that gap can be really damaging. There's actually a condition called selfie dysmorphia. It's when people become so obsessed with their filtered selfies that they want to look like that in real life. Some even get plastic surgery to match their edited photos. Using your own photo as a wallpaper doesn't automatically mean you have this, but it could be a warning sign if the photo is heavily edited. Now let me tell you about something nobody talks about. Loneliness. When you're really lonely, when you feel disconnected from everyone, sometimes the only relationship you have left is with yourself, and seeing your own face becomes comforting. Studies show that loneliness increases self-focus. When people feel isolated, they turn inward. They spend more time thinking about themselves because that's all they have. The wallpaper isn't narcissistic, it's just lonely. But there's one more explanation that's actually kind of healthy. Some people use their own photo because it represents who they're trying to become. Maybe it's from a time when they were happier or healthier. Maybe it reminds them of a goal. In that case, it's not about admiration, it's about motivation. And honestly, that's probably the best reason to do it. Here's what I think is really going on, though. We live in a selfie-obsessed culture. Social media changed how we think about ourselves. We're constantly documenting our lives, sharing photos, seeking validation. We look at our own face more than we look at anyone else's. Between selfies, video calls, and camera apps, we're basically surveilling ourselves all day. So using your own photo as a wallpaper, it's just one step further. It's making that self-surveillance even more obvious. And that's kind of disturbing when you think about it. What does it say about our society that we're this obsessed with our own image? Are we becoming narcissists? Or are we just responding to what technology made us? So what does it actually mean when someone uses their own photo as a wallpaper? The truth is, it depends. For some people, it's narcissism, pure self-admiration. For others, it's a coping mechanism for insecurity. For others, it's about identity and staying grounded. And for some, it doesn't mean anything deep at all. The key is context. If someone does this and also constantly seeks attention, lacks empathy, and acts superior, then yeah, it's probably part of a narcissistic pattern. But if it's just this one quirky thing and they're otherwise normal, it's probably fine. What I find most interesting is what this reveals about our relationship with ourselves. In the past, people didn't see themselves often, maybe a few glances in the mirror each day. Now we see our face constantly. We're more familiar with our own appearance than any generation in history, and that has to mess with us psychologically. Some researchers say this makes us more self-conscious and critical. We notice every flaw, every bad angle. Others say it could make us more comfortable with ourselves, more accepting of how we really look. I don't know which is right. Probably both. But here's what I do know. We need to be more aware of our relationship with our own image. We need to ask ourselves why we do what we do. Why do we take so many selfies? Why do we edit our photos? Why do we care so much about how we look? And why would someone use their own photo as a wallpaper? Because the answers reveal our insecurities, our values, our fears, and understanding that helps us make better choices about how we want to live. So the next time you see someone with their own photo as a wallpaper, don't just assume they're vain. There's probably a lot more going on beneath the surface. Maybe they're struggling with identity. Maybe they're lonely. Maybe they're trying to love themselves. Or maybe, yeah, they're just a narcissist. The psychology is complicated. It can indicate narcissism, but also insecurity. It can be self-love or self-obsession, healthy or problematic. You can't know just from this one behavior. You need to look at the whole person. And maybe that's the real point. We can't judge people from surface observations. Human behavior is complicated and contradictory. The sea of action means different things to different people. If we want to understand someone, we need to dig deeper and approach them with curiosity, not judgment. Using your own photo as a wallpaper might be weird, but it's not necessarily bad or good. It's just something some people do, and the psychology behind it is way more complex than most of us realize. Subscribe if you want more psychology that actually makes you think,